Picture your first few weeks in Ireland. You have your bags, your student visa, and a valid Indian driving license in your wallet. It's easy to assume you can just rent a car and drive across the countryside whenever you want. But that assumption catches hundreds of international students off guard every year. Ireland does recognize foreign licenses, but the moment you establish normal residency, a rigid 12-month ticking clock begins. For a student, normally resident doesn't mean the day you land for orientation. Legally, it starts the day your institution registers you as an enrolled student. From that exact date, you have precisely 12 months to legally drive on your Indian license. When that 12-month clock flashes to zero, your license loses its legal validity. Driving on it becomes a criminal offense under Irish road traffic law. If you haven't passed an Irish driving test by then, you are instantly restricted to a learner permit, meaning you cannot drive unless a fully qualified driver is sitting in the passenger seat. Then there is the cost. Beyond the legal hurdles, running a standard budget used car in Ireland involves several layers of recurring fees. Factoring in insurance, taxes, and maintenance, keeping a modest car on the road regularly costs more than €7,000 in your very first year. This creates a high-stakes decision window. Within your first few weeks, you'll need to weigh these bureaucratic steps against your actual daily commute to see if that €7,000 price tag is a necessary investment or an avoidable drain on your budget. A lot of incoming students think they can just walk into the local licensing office and swap their Indian card for an Irish one. That is not an option. India is not on Ireland's direct exchange list. Instead, you are eligible for the Reduced Essential Driver Training pathway. Because you already hold a foreign license, the Road Safety Authority cuts the mandatory lesson requirement in half, from the standard 12 lessons down to 6. This flowchart outlines your exact path to a legal Irish license. You start by passing a computer-based driver theory test for €45. Then you secure a signed eyesight report from a registered optician and take those documents to the National Driver License Service to apply for your learner permit. With your permit in hand, you move to the driving phase. You will pay between €210 and €300 for a block of 6 mandatory lessons with an approved instructor. After completing those, you pay an €85 fee to sit your final road test. Warning tone. But look closely at the timing. Summer test slots often book out 6 to 8 weeks in advance. If you arrive in August, your 12-month window closes the following August. To avoid driving illegally, you actually need to have your final test booked by June. While the licensing fees themselves stay under €600, hitting every deadline requires starting the process almost immediately upon arrival. If you miss that month 13 cutoff, you lose the ability to drive solo, regardless of how much you've already spent on the process. Once you have your Irish license, you need a car. A reliable, budget-friendly used hatchback on the Irish market will typically run you between €4,000 and €8,000. Before you hand over any cash, you must run the registration plate through a background check service like Cartel or MotorCheck. For about €20, this report reveals if the car has hidden outstanding finance, a history as a write-off, or secretly clocked mileage. Pay special attention to UK imports. The Irish background check only shows a car's history from the day it entered Ireland. You have to run a separate, free UK MOT history check online to see if the vehicle suffered severe accident damage before it crossed the border. Irish insurers maintain a specific list of countries whose no-claims bonuses they automatically recognize. India is not on it. No matter how long you have been driving, the algorithms treat you as a high-risk beginner. This chart compares your coverage options, and the disparity is massive. A standard first-year policy for a newly arrived international student easily hits €2,500 and can routinely exceed €5,000. The only viable workaround for most students is a telematics or black box policy. These use a small device installed in your car to monitor your speed, braking, and cornering, rewarding safe habits by dropping the premium closer to the €500 to €1,200 range. But look at the restrictions tied to that lower rate. Black box policies strictly penalize nighttime driving. Many insurers will outright cancel your policy or hit you with severe fees if you regularly drive between midnight and 5 a.m. The black box effectively becomes your co-pilot. To access these lower rates, you're trading away the freedom of late-night travel for a premium you can actually afford to pay. Possessing the car triggers 2 immediate legal requirements: motor tax and the NCT. Annual motor tax for a typical student hatchback costs roughly €280 to €390. You should pay this in a single yearly lump sum, as paying quarterly adds a 13% penalty. Then there is the National Car Test, or NCT. This is a mandatory €60 roadworthiness inspection required every 2 years for older vehicles. If you buy a cheap used car, expect to pay for replacement parts like worn tires or brake lights just to pass. Everyday running costs are equally taxing. Ireland's fuel prices are among the highest in Europe, currently sitting around €1.73 per litre for petrol. For commuters around Dublin, you also have the M50 toll. This sign shows the rates for Ireland's barrier-free toll roads. Every time you cross the ring road, cameras record your plate, charging up to €3.80 per trip. A daily commute here drains your bank account incredibly fast. When you stack up the tax, the NCT, the high fuel prices, and the tolls, the basic running costs alone surpass €2,000. Add that to the purchase price and insurance, and the total expense of putting a €6,000 car on the road hits well past €7,000 in your first year. Compare that €7,000 price tag to the alternative. A student Leap card in Dublin caps your annual public transport spending at around €1,650. To decide if a car is a necessary investment, we built a matrix plotting public transit against your daily commute. If you're an urbanite studying at UCD, Trinity, or TU Dublin, you're in the top left quadrant, relying on frequent buses, trams, and cycle lanes. These city center campuses are built for pedestrians and cyclists. Student parking is either prohibitively expensive or practically non-existent. For you, the infrastructure makes the car redundant. But look at the bottom right quadrant, the regional commuter. If you are attending the University of Limerick, Atlantic Technological University, or living in rural counties, bus routes are sparse. That €7,000 cost becomes a necessary investment, so you can attend off-campus work placements and buy affordable groceries. And if you are an urban student just wanting to explore the coast on the weekends, jumping on the DART train is vastly cheaper than absorbing the cost of full-time ownership. The verdict is simple. If you are studying in a rural area, book your theory test on week 1 to beat the 12-month clock. If you are moving to Dublin, save your €7,000 and buy a Leap card. For more on managing your money as an international student, check out our Irish banking and housing guides to fund your journey securely.